Good morning, everybody. Paul here, coming at you with a Crypto Coffee update where we talk about the news, the conferences, the events, all of the things you want to see coming out of the exploding digital financial world known as crypto. And please forgive me today, my voice is a little bit scratchy, so it kind of comes and goes. It's been hot, cold, like crazy here, so definitely trying to fight off whatever I may be developing with the assistance of coffee, of course. So join me for that simultaneous sip where we just enjoy a sip of tea, in this case coffee, or water, whatever you have on hand, to start this episode right in solidarity. Good stuff. So, my brothers and sisters, or whatever you may identify as, let's go ahead and jump into what we have open in front of us. The first of which is the Cryptide website, so check us out over at cryptide.cc. And I'll just give you a very short tour for anyone who is new joining us for the first time. We have the video section where you can find videos just like this and all of the Crypto Coffee updates produced by Cryptide. We have the news section, so if you're having a busy day, there's a lot going on, you can kind of get little snippets and bits and pieces, and we not only share all of the articles that you see here from the Crypto Coffee videos, but any additional information that I may come across during my daily perusement of the news. We also have the blog section. Primarily, it contains next week's crypto, which is a litany of conferences and events happening all around the world, perhaps even in your local area, so you too can attend these if you so choose. Just another way that we all here at Cryptide try to keep you in the loop and keep you informed with as little effort but as much critical thought as possible on your end. Alright, so with that out of the way, cryptide.cc, check us out. Let's go ahead and jump into the news of the day. BitTorrent is an ICO on the Tron network that occurred on the Binance platform. So Tron has a token, BTT, or BitTorrent token, that was launched using Binance's brand new ICO incubation software on their exchange. So that was pretty neat, and it was a voracious success in terms of financials. You can see $7 million raised in just 15 minutes. But this is not without controversy. As with most things seemingly pertaining to Tron and to some lesser extent Binance, there were some technical difficulties associated with this exchange. Now, 18 minutes is about the total amount of time it took for the ICO to run up all $7.1 million raised within that time frame. However, CZ, or Changpeng Zhao, the CEO of Binance, said that it would have taken only 18 seconds had they not experienced this litany of technical issues that have left more than a small share of users perturbed about their inability to participate in the BTT token sale. We head over to Twitter to see it straight from the horse's mouth. 18 seconds otherwise, demand was astronomical, and I guess I should clarify for my international audience, horse's mouth, beating a dead horse, none of those have a negative connotation per se. It's just an idiom we use here, so mad respect to CZ. Just wanted to clarify that for any of my non-US viewers there. You can see here that this individual's mad. I tried 30 times to log into your website. Your site sucks. Yet no clarification as to whether or not this guy was trying to log on to some kind of actual sock apparel website. Maybe he got the URL wrong. No idea. But suffice to say that many individuals are unhappy. And again, just to kind of look at the potential narratives here, just applying Occam's razor, this could be a collusory situation in which CZ, the CEO of one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges with validated volume, in turn collaborates with some behind closed door dealings in which only a select handful of individuals receive a disproportionate amount of tokens by which some degree he profits, or reasonably this huge burgeoning exchange that is experimenting and working with this extremely technically complex digital assets had some legitimate technical issues that ultimately led a non-select, non-indiscriminate group of individuals who were just lucky enough to be able to participate in that sale to make out with a disproportionate share of tokens. So realistically, again, applying Occam's razor, it seems that the technical difficulties situation would be much more believable than a collusory sort of thing, but there's no empirical evidence to back up either way. Really, we just have to go with the information that was put out by the CEO of the company and say, well, dang guys, you had some great luck if you were able to participate in this ICO, and a lot of apologies, I guess, to the individuals who weren't able to participate, but that's just kind of how she goes sometimes with all this new technology. Newfangled technology. Speaking of newfangled technology, Chicago folk, my Chicagoans, should be quite pleased since they are able to rub shoulders with some of this newfangled tech as 30 new Bitcoin ATMs are going to launch across the Windy City. Now, keep in mind, in the last Crypto Coffee update, we talked about how New York they granted a bit license to Robinhood, and I believe the entity was called Liberty X. I think that was the name. So two entities were granted a bit license, meaning that they too could sell Bitcoin using these ATMs in New York City. So just in the last week, we've seen two major US cities gain access to Bitcoin on the go, rubbing shoulders with this financial technology in a manner that is both familiar, accessible, and physical. So again, helping to bridge that gap between this new exciting digital stuff and a familiar medium by which individuals can in turn familiarize themselves, bridging the gap, it's an option. So good stuff there. And another way that more high value, high net worth individuals may perhaps be put at ease and in turn facilitated into this new digital economy is through Fidelity. Previously on this channel, we've talked about how Fidelity began interacting with the Bitcoin's ecosystem tepidly in 2014. And full-blown started mining Bitcoin in 2015. So Fidelity has been staking their claim on the Bitcoin network for quite some time now, a number of years, going on 4 years, geez. And so they are no strangers to this ecosystem. And given that they have dipped their toes in the water and found it favorable, they are looking to plunge in headfirst into this exciting, exploding with life, teeming with life sea that is crypto as a custodial entity. So again, another way that high net worth individuals can have their minds put at ease that their cryptographic assets are secure. A custodial entity essentially, as one may assume, manages these assets on behalf of these individuals, assuring that all of the best security practices are being undertaken so that these high net worth individuals don't have to burden themselves with learning how to do these best security practices themselves. After all, if you lose a private key, then you no longer have access to that wallet. So one wrong move could lead to some huge amount of heartache. And when you're dealing with this level of capital, level of conservative treatment of one's portfolio makes more rational sense than not. After all, maybe some of these high net worth individuals have dabbled in Bitcoin and know how to use Coinbase quite well on a personal level. However, when you want to buy $5 million, $10 million worth, just holding that cold storage wallet leaves you kind of shaking. You have $10 million in your hand. I mean, you know, it's what do you do? Put that safe in a safe, and that safe in the ground, and that ground with a bunker over top of it? Realistically, having a regulated system by which you can be assured that your assets are secure is a huge, huge peace of mind for many individuals. Now, this Fidelity custodial service may be launching around March, as seen here. However, due to the collection of delays we've seen specifically with Bakkt, I wouldn't hold my breath and say that this is set in stone. That's not to say that this is going away at all. It's just that when you're dealing with these kind of huge financial entities, there's a lot of regulations that they have to ensure that they're complying with, and in many regards, they are blazing a new trail by which they need to seek guidance from the SEC and other relevant three-letter alphabet soup organizations from the federal government. So they're not the only ones looking to be a custodial service. We have Bank of New York, Mellon Corp, JP Morgan Chase & Co., and Northern Trust Corp all exploring entering custodial services as well. And this is something, again, that is really necessary for a lot of individuals. The largest hack in Japanese history was the 534 million, huge number, hack over at CoinCheck, where that many NEM were stolen, essentially. And it's not due to any James Bond-esque breaking into the building and scanning the servers and all that cool stuff you see in Hollywood. It was just a low security hot wallet. So essentially, the exchange failed to implement the best security practices possible, leaving a $500 million worth of capital in terms of tokens, NEM specifically, just sitting out in the open, able to be transferred with very little protection, and that's exactly what occurred. Now, luckily, NEM is a quasi-permission ledger, so they were able to freeze these NEM tokens and get to the bottom of perhaps who perpetrated this, but it's still not a good situation. And interestingly enough, talk about perfect timing, we have a article that's breaking just 2 days ago that is going into great detail about a very similar situation. BitGrail CEO has been ordered to repay $170 million worth of lost, as you can see, cryptocurrency, if he even has it. Because if he doesn't have it, that's going to be kind of hard. So it's Italian. And if you recall, now let's try and frame some of this context, which I just find fascinating. This is my favorite part about keeping up to date with you guys with all this stuff. So just yesterday, no, it was 2 days ago, in the last Crypto Coffee update, we talked about how Italy passed their first blockchain legislation. So could it be there's a potentiality, at least, that this legislation was passed as Italy, the Italian judicial system, was looking into how to best offer restitution for these individuals who suffered at the hands of this Italian exchange. After all, if you have a precedent by which you have defined smart contract, blockchain, that would make legitimate sense for any kind of court proceedings associated with exchanges, smart contracts, etc. Now, the meat of the matter here is the bomber, as the individual called himself, has to declare for bankruptcy, forfeit his personal assets as well, and return as much of the stolen digital assets as possible. Again, if he even has it anymore. Now, this is something that was a huge blow to the, at the time, Ryblox and what eventually became Nano ecosystem, given that, again, it was $170 million worth of the token. Not a good look. Not only that, this was due to the fact that he did not where did it say that? Yep, essentially, in particular, they noted he failed to install any suitable safeguards to ensure the nano cryptocurrency could not be repeatedly withdrawn without authorization. So again, it goes back to this individual who is serving as the de facto custodian over other individuals' tokens, not taking the proper security concerns, not only for himself, but on behalf of all of the individuals who entrusted him to facilitate a legitimate service. And if he would have just done that, perhaps this entire situation could have been avoided, and it's a little surprised that high net worth individuals would feel much more at ease with a huge entity such as Fidelity, as is regulatory compliant, acting as the custodian of their capital rather than a faceless individual that goes by the bomber. So even though this level of financial intrusion into the crypto space is viewed with huge amounts of skepticism by some crypto veterans, myself included to some degree, it's nonetheless welcome. Different strokes, different folks, and it's all just technology at the end of the day. You're going to have huge distributed, decentralized systems that anyone can participate in, and you're going to have permission systems, quasi-permission systems that are utilized for more business-minded, business-oriented applications where you don't want everybody poking in. After all, that would completely violate some elements of fiduciary responsibility. So all that to say that unfortunate situation here at BitGrail, glad that things are moving forward, super cool with Fidelity, keep an eye out for awesome stuff happening come March, unless there's any delays there. And yeah, guys, huge financial entities have not only been in the space for a while, but are looking to shift from kind of waiting tepidly, maybe around the ankle to knee level, to just jumping in head first. So really awesome stuff happening there. And you can't get much bigger. Well, okay, conceptually you can get much bigger, but Swift, it's pretty big, pretty huge, right? And there's been some drama recently between R3 and Ripple as pertaining to Swift, who Swift's going to choose. It's kind of like the, what do they call that? All My Children, like the old soap opera. That's a soap opera drama kind of deal. It's like, who will Swift choose, Ripple or R3? And it turns out Ripple's heart has been broken, but it's not quite as dramatic as you may think. We'll explain here why in just a moment. But Swift is now going to be working with R3 to trial some DLT or distributed ledger technology integration. Now, for those who may not be aware, Swift is a huge entity that deals with interbank settlement and liquidity. So conceptually, I find it very helpful to think of it as the middleman to help central banks make sure their payments are taken care of. After all, you have a lot of Americans traveling to Argentina and vice versa for vacation, commerce, business, all kinds of reasons, and they're going to be exchanging their currency relatively flexibly. Now, you need to make sure that the Argentine Central Bank and the United States Federal Reserve are able to square the circle of how much of each currency is moving around respectively, not only just due to the individuals withdrawing and moving around, but also as hedges for their own balance sheets. So in order to facilitate that communication, Swift uses proprietary systems that use their own form of communication. So said another way, when America wants to talk to Argentina, it uses a certain set of protocol. When America wants to talk to, let's say, the European Central Bank, there's an entirely separate version of that protocol. So you can imagine how squaring these circles quickly becomes a game of trying to fit all of the shapes into their correct holes before it pops off and everything goes crazy. So it is increasingly become a more cumbersome entity as the world economy has developed over the decades. After all, some of this code for Swift was written in the 1960s, so it's old. And seeing all of these new, exciting digital ledger innovations coming out, such as Ripple and R3, this could really mold well in terms of bridging the old financial systems and these new digital technologies, and slowly but surely, tenuously merge them together to help to expedite these interbank settlements, which could indirectly impact all of us. I know it's not something we think about every day, and it's that kind of thing where if you start in at Thanksgiving talking about interbank payments and liquidity, people just like fall asleep right in their Thanksgiving food, but I find it fascinating. And after all, it can indirectly impact us in some really positive ways. But suffice to say that Swift is using a GPI-linked gateway with R3's Korda platform, which is a permissioned blockchain, and to monitor payment flows and support application programming interfaces or APIs, as well as Swift and ISO standards. So it is using this new technology up to Swift standards and doing so in a way that in turn will expedite these payments between banks. So it's pretty cool. Now, R3 said XRP is the first globally recognized cryptocurrency. So we're getting back to kind of that drama llama component to be supported by Settler. So R3 is actually working heavily with XRP, specifically the token, in terms of allowing the token to be used on the R3 network and platform. So after all, if you have all these proprietary systems building up and they don't interact with one another and they all want to replace Swift, well, you're kind of just reinventing the Swift system in a bigger, more privatized way. So reasonably, seeing these entities work together, I find is much more encouraging than dissuasive. Dissuasive? I think dissuasive could be used there. But yeah, following the recent launch of our Korda settler, allowing for the payment of obligations raised on the Korda platform, it was a logical extension to plug into Swift GPI. Swift GPI has rapidly become the new standard to settle payments right across the world. All the blockchain applications running on Korda will thus benefit from the fast, secure, and transparent settlement provided through Swift GPI banks. So again, moving up the goalpost in terms of, well, that's not really good connotation there, is it? Kind of stepping up to the plate. That's a better one. Stepping up to the plate to ensure that not only are they compliant with contemporary regulations, but setting the bar even higher by expediting these payments. Now, I thought it would be worthwhile, because we do have a good chunk of time here we can mess around with. Let's look at some of these huge quasi-permission, more privatized blockchain platforms and how they're being utilized all across the world. Really fascinating stuff. Now again, Korda is from R3, and I just did a bit of reading about them not too long ago, and I find them fascinating. They're similar to Ethereum, but not just due to the fact that they're much more permissioned, and in turn may well be a better fit for entities and business corporations all around the world. You can get some more information over here at Korda.net. We're not going to spend too much time just reading over every piece of it. You can get some more information for yourself, but one thing, yeah, here we go. I found this particularly interesting. Organizations supporting Korda, and there's some huge names on here. Amazon Web Services, plenty of banks. There's a couple central banks on here as well. Bangkok Bank, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank of Cyprus, Barclays. So huge partnerships working with this digital ledger. We talk a lot about crypto partnerships. That's a huge thing. When Tron partnered with BitTorrent, everybody freaked out. Super awesome. Always on the prowl for these new partnerships and entities to work with. But seeing these permissioned chains backed by huge existing capitals, backed by huge existing entities with huge amounts of capital is really encouraging, but also kind of demonstrative of how there are two crypto ecosystems in a way. They're very heavily interrelated. But I'm noticing more and more that you have the public-facing cryptos, think Bitcoin, Litecoin, all the ones on CoinMarketCap, and then you have the more privatized blockchain and distributed ledger tech projects such as Korda. So really interesting to see how they don't always interact, and they're not always mutually exclusive either. So very peculiar. Next up we have AdHara, which is a liquidity management and international payments for decentralized financial networks. So very similar to R3, very similar to Ripple. However, they are much more privatized in that way, so that can be beneficial. There has been a lot of debate as to whether Ripple/XRP, entities that are related but not the exact same, may in turn have enough intertwinement to have XRP considered a security. After all, this is the first month that the huge initial investors in Ripple can begin to liquidate some of their bags onto the retail market. So it's added a level of complication that entities such as AdHara, such as Korda, don't necessarily have because they don't have a native token. It's really fascinating to think about that this new type of financial technology was created in a ecosystem by which there is no formal regulation that can be applied, and therefore it's really just skirting that fine line between potentially being a security, but there's all kinds of implications as to how that token interacts with the formal business side of Ripple as to whether or not it would actually be legally considered such. So really amazing, fascinating stuff here, not only from a technological perspective, but from a legal perspective as well, and how they square the circles of new technology bumping up against legal financial regulation. But AdHara doesn't seem to have that problem. They have a lot of very similar solutions, a lot of veterans in the space that have been working on this kind of thing. So just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention in case you find it particularly interesting, as I have. We also have Congo. So I don't know what's going on with their website. I guess this was a design choice. It kind of looks like you're going in to have your wisdom teeth taken out in the 1990s dentist office, and you were just given the gas to kind of put you out, and you're looking at the floor, and it's doing that whoom thing. I know that's really specific, but it just hit me like the 1990s kind of feel. But nonetheless, despite their particularly interesting choice of architecture, of architecture, there we go, they're building some really neat stuff, primarily focusing on the commodities and how those are traded throughout the world. The way I think of it is VeChain. That's one of the more public-facing cryptos that they also deal with commodities essentially, but Congo seems much more formalized in the sense that, one, they're not a Chinese-based company, which for so many reasons, Chinese order books and liquidity have come under huge amount of scrutiny due to a lot of order books being cooked from China. Of course, that's not exclusive to China, that's a lot of places, but in terms of proportionality, a lot of scrutiny there. But who knows? Again, VeChain is in a unique position. After all, they're a huge crypto, and if they have the correct ties to the Chinese Communist Party, who knows what they may be able to achieve. But from a more free market perspective, Congo definitely seems to be taking the cake in terms of application. They are based on the Ethereum network. I'm not sure if they're based on the Ethereum network, but like actually physically on the Ethereum network, but I think they may have just forked the Ethereum code base and are building their own proprietary solution using that as a template. So very interesting stuff there. Again, you can read more about it over here at congo.io. And here's another article I had kind of floating out here. I just wanted to bring it up so you guys could check it out. R3 launches the Universal Settler application, what we talked about in the previous article, and XRP is going to be the first settlement mechanism. So this is just a blog post where you can get more detailed information about how XRP is going to be interacting with R3's Settler application, which in turn is going to be explored by Swift. So really exciting stuff there. Here's also a clarification about Xcurrent being designed to facilitate cross-border payments with or without XRP, and Xrapid being used to or being designed to explicitly utilize XRP. So I thought that was just another interesting component as to how the circle is squared between having a native token and also having a network that doesn't necessarily utilize the native token per se. So fascinating stuff, really. But do you guys find it equally interesting that all this makes sense, that it come together in a coherent way that helped to kind of get your noggin jogging, the gears turning, interesting kind of thought processes rolling for you? Let me know below in the comments, or head on over to the Discord where we can have some fantastic discussion. Always looking to have great talks there, and we have some very lively talks happening lately. And I got to give a shout out to Origami Oracle. He is doing some great technical analysis there. So if you're interested in the price action more so than the news, I know you're not going to hurt my feelings. It's okay. We go way back. You can check it out there at the Discord as well, or follow him, Origami Oracle. Check him out. Let's look him up right now. Why not? This is my Crypto Coffee update. We can do it live. Ooh, yeah. Actually, it's our Crypto Coffee update, comrades. Here we go. Origami Oracle. Check him out. Has some great stuff going on there. Just wanted to give him a quick shout out. But yeah, that's all we have for the day, guys. Thanks so much for watching, truly. I know I said it was my Crypto Coffee update, but I can't do that to you. It's our Crypto Coffee update, because without you, I would just be a guy talking to a little webcam eyeball, which people do all the time, but you make it a lot more fun. So thanks so much, guys. My name is Paul. Much love. We will talk to you guys next time. And we are Cryptide, and the tide is rising.